Hello. Hi. This is another episode of Making of the Track, which is on the YouTube channel. So don't forget to like and subscribe, all that mumbo jumbo. And yeah, this is a track that's on pre-order titled Same-ish, Different Day, which is an Acid House track, as you can hear by the synthesizer, which is the TB-303, the Roland synth, and I used like a Behringer one, which is an analog one that I have, which I've actually only used once. They are kind of, I find, confusing to use, and I had the hang of using it, and if I pull it out again, I probably will have no idea how to use it. That's the funny part about some of these analog instruments that you have at home to your expense. But yeah, let's get into what has been done in the track, and I could probably start off with some analog settings, which is the insert, which is insert 3 and 4. As people probably know, I use a summing mixer, so I spit all 8 channels out to a summing mixer and go back into another interface that I have chained into my stuff here. So I have an X4 Apollo and an X8 Apollo, which is kind of like the main meat and potatoes. And yeah, this is insert 3 and 4. Yeah, and you can see here how I'm not really doing much, and you can even kind of hear a difference with me inserting it in and out, that it's more on the percussion stuff, like the loops, and just a lot of the drums, and I'm just kind of drowning out the 20 hertz stuff that doesn't need to be there, and just giving some low mids that I want to appear within the drums, and some of the high mids there, and tweaking out some other stuff. And this is like this here is like an emulation of a API. This is a emulation of an API like EQ. So everything is like, I guess, shelf bands. If everything's like a shelf when you're EQing it, I could be wrong or right, but that's what it kind of feels like when you are using them. Whatever. If I'm wrong, whatever. I don't care. Whatever. It works. And this is like insert 1 and 2. This is like a classic Pultec that's on insert 1 and 2. So it's my kick, anything that's mono. So it's kick, bass, and yeah, and snare. And I'm just kind of giving it more of the low mids, some more presence within the mix, to help make a smiley face, I guess you can say. It's kind of the curve. Yeah, and then cutting it off, so it's like I'm boosting, and then it's like kind of attenuating, is like making like almost a teeter-totter in the spectrum of EQing, if I'm wrong or right, I don't know. And then just pulling up the band, the sharp band. Yeah, I don't want to explain too much because I don't want to make this video too long. And then just boosting up the 3K, and then cutting off at 10K, 2 dB or so. Yeah, and then what is going on within the master of like the print is 145 hertz cut off. So this is all to do with like the low end not having a stereo image, or helping it take out a certain stereo image. If you listen by example here, I can probably show in levels. So once I press S, it'll just be the stereo image itself, and you'll hear probably less of the bass. Yeah, so now you can hear that like the bass doesn't exist in the stereo image. If I bypass this, I don't know if it's a good example of that part, but yeah, you can hear like the kick is a little more prominent when it's in a stereo image versus with. So like it doesn't exist as much, which is gonna give the mix a little more space, in general. Something like this, I wish I had mixed down for what I know now, because I produced this track, I think, in 2021. So this is getting signed like 2 or 3 years later. which is cool, right? But I do wish that I kind of, well, not wish, but the knowledge that I feel I have now, I would have done something a little more cool to this. And who knows? I haven't looked at this for a while. But when you have less things going on in a track, it's a little easier to mix and to make sound louder and all that other stuff. So just the normal stuff that I have going on here is that I had just give 100 hertz to the kick and then carve out some 135 hertz. And then this is just side chaining with the bass. And I don't know why I have this as a stereo image, but I guess that's part of the real print now. Now my mouse is not working, and I hate this. And then I've just now here I've just put it up the kick at like 1K or so. So, and I think, I don't know if I'm doing like, no, it doesn't look like I'm doing like harmonic, like EQing in general. And then here's on the kick is just the tape machine before going in to give it a more cool effect. This is probably the time where the Pro Tools upgrade didn't happen with the Heat plugin. So, or it probably didn't. I just didn't install it yet. But now I use Heat as my tape machine instead of adding some of this other stuff here. The parallel aggressor just to kind of just give it more saturation, and then a filter which is kind of going on within the track because I just have the TR-03, the Behringer. I'm basically kind of just, the percussion is basically making all the changes within the song to make a difference because it's very repetitive. Even here you can just see that the kick is engages more and more into the track, right? And then as it gets in, it has more impact as it goes there, right? And like even here, it's like at this area. I don't know. It's just what I chose to do, and that's what it is. I don't know if I do that now, but whatever, And then we have the impact to just help bring that, So I guess it's just not prominent as there, right? It's interesting choice, but whatever. That's what I did, and then as you kick in. Right, more energy, more passion, right? Then we have just like some EQing of the clap here, which I think this is like an aggressive curve. I like to do more something like 18 or 12 now. That's fine though. It's the choice I made, and that's fine. Oh, great. I don't know what happened there, but looks like I somehow deleted the compressor that was there, which was the LA2A, and I'm sure I didn't do anything crazy. Hold on, where is it now? That's instruments, dynamics. That's what happens when you have a lot. It's funny, you have a lot. I have a lot of plugins, but only use certain ones over and over again. There we go. Yeah, so I'm sure I did something like that. Who knows? And then I just did like some trim because like at certain areas of the song, a lot of this track, because it's repetitive, everything's done in the background on the mix end, so it's like everything's just it's happening on that end as volume raises and filters and bringing instruments in and out. And then here we go, we have like the off time claps, just swinging things off 200 hertz and giving it a hump, so it's like that low mid comes in with the clap than just something that's a little more prominent. The more weighted areas in the mids here, and then just carving out some highs that I guess I just didn't want, or yeah. And it's using the LA2A. Same with this other off-time clap, and compressing them to give them different, I guess, their own pockets within it. Then we have just a cymbal, nothing crazy, just EQing out garbage that doesn't need to be there, and EQing just some high stuff, and do nothing to it, as in like no compression, because it doesn't really need anything. It sounds great and it's fine, and yeah, and this part here, it's the line 3, so like it's going through that JDK EQ and stuff. Then we have some hats. This is like an Ozone plugin that I use, and it's depleted, but it basically was just making, not depleted, but it doesn't. It's at a different version, and then it's whatever. So basically, what I'm doing there is just giving the hi-hat more width. Interesting choice here that I'm making this more in the background. I would pan these 30-30. I even just like the impact, I don't know why that's like that. Surprisingly, I would probably put that at the middle and maybe pan it like at 3, so when the kick hits, it's not like getting in the way of that mono area of it. So like I'm saying, I made this track how many years ago, so it's like it's interesting to look back on what I've been doing, right? So, and then we have like the classic ride hat that gives it more of like that rhythm, and just EQing stuff out, right? The garbage that doesn't need to be there, and just taking out some highs for more room for other stuff to breathe. And then we have the snare that's kind of like the meat and potatoes of just what's going on. Hopefully my mouse will have a connection. Oh, there we go. No, lost connection. Now it says it has a connection. So yeah, just kind of chopping this some lows out, and letting the snare have the low mids to breathe more. And like I said, these are choices that I just wouldn't make now within the EQ, but sounds great. Sure, works for what the time it was. And then we have the distressor at just like a gut smack preset, and I'm pretty sure like I played around with whatever's going on here, but the snare is basically a meat and potato. This is the meat and potatoes of, I like using that word, I guess, meat and potatoes of the snare. If you check it out. Kind of gives like this snare a little more impact, and just a little more like release at the tail end of like the there's not a release, but it is more of a gut smack, like it said. So it's just very like hard on the attack, and the release is just quite. You don't hear it like more, psh, right? It's just very. And then we just have like cowbells, which is a really cool rhythmic spot. And I use this cowbell sample a lot over the years. Like even Art of Tone's album, it's just used over and over. I just like the sound of that cowbell. Not using it as much now, but yeah, it's like I had a very big obsession for cowbells for a majority of my productions at the time, and just more filters used in, and just trim volume. I like to use trim volume because I get all the volume set in general when I've mixed everything, and it's like you're making a certain volume move within Pro Tools, like an automation, then you can't make another volume move, and it's screwed everything up. So like the volumes, I mix everything at once. Like where it's the busiest part, that's where I'm mixing in the loop, right? And when it gets to the breakdown, it's like you don't want to put this automation into Pro Tools in case you want to make like another mix decision within the track. It doesn't need to be done within your actual like volume here, because what Pro Tools does is like when you start adjusting the fader, it'll just go back to whatever the channel, whatever you have at that decibel level, which is it's just annoying to deal with. I'm sure other programs do it. I don't know if it's just Pro Tools, but yeah, it's just annoying. So it's just better to just use this volume function within it and automate it that way. It's just better that way. And then we're on to just like the loops, just kind of fleshing stuff out, and it's just giving more rhythm, as it would be more boring without it. Just. Oh, I forgot to do the solo enable, because that's what I do now. There we go. So yeah, it's just very different now, as in. Oh, what's going on? Yeah, like that. That's what it is. Yeah. So, yeah, as you can hear, it's just like, it's just the rhythm. It's just these loops give it the rhythm and oomph of what it is. Also, it's just nothing without it, right? You can even. Oh Lord. Looks like I've created another. Oh, this mouse. There we go. I think because I have. What do we got here? Let's see. Okay, that's like one reason. Okay, because there's two of these going on. So, and here we have just the auxes, and so everything from the drums has its own dedicated aux, and everything from like the instruments has its own dedicated aux. And what I've done within this channel of it, if I can just pull this mouse, if I can just make this mouse pull, I can show you. So I'm just cutting out low end here of just whatever can be stereo within low end of the drums, and then the F function curve. So I'm just giving the drums a more smiley face, apparently with a preset, and not really recommended to just throw presets, set it and forget it, but it seems that's kind of what I've done here. And then I've just done my own compression setting here. Within just a 1:4 ratio, and the threshold and whatnot. Let's see if I can just. I wonder why this is going on. Okay. Let's see. I'm unsure of this problem. And I don't want to solve it. But yeah, it does make a difference adding in this compression here, just to it's a complete. Seems like it's a complete squash and gain reduction. And then we have doing the same thing with the instrument, and then doing another Flexion Munchausen curve thing, and then doing a stereo bus compression, which is just compressing it and just giving it a little tickle, per se. And then we have everything to do with, per se, the bass. I use the pumper. I use Extra Records sidechain plugin to do that work now, because I do find that what the one knob's actually doing, if you turn up the volume in your DAW, but make sure like you don't have any music going, and you put your monitor at full volume, the one knob is actually is like this fader that's going just like this as sidechain does, but it has this weird like sound. I don't want to do it now because I have all the mics and I'm not wearing headphones, but it basically does this. There's this weird sound that it does when you end up turning it up in general, and I probably can't hear it because I have the summing mixer at a certain level where it's not having as much hiss and all that other stuff. But yeah, it does this thing that's kind of annoying, which is I don't really use it. I kind of just you want less noise in the background eliminated, for my opinion. I find some people do. I feel like some people do. It's good to have that. Like a console's gonna have that hiss color, and like that's what that has. And I don't find it annoying, but like anything that's emulating like a plugin, I find it quite annoying with that sound. I do hate when Waves plugins does that, or like any. I don't know if UAD plugins do it. I'm sure they do, but it's more pleasing. But I find like some of the Waves plugins, they don't have pleasing analog emulation sounds of like the hiss of the circuitry, which is just really annoying to have on a mix. I find, yeah. So now we go to like the EQ, and I'm here just giving it more EQing at 86 hertz to give it just more. I'm wanting the bass to carry more than the kick in general, and just it gives more balance. I feel like when I'm mixing is doing my kicks at like 100 hertz, and then having the bass rumble more. This is just my opinion in general. I'm sure like people, I see other people just going at 60 hertz on their kicks, and that's just what they want to do, and that's fine. And yeah. Then we have the tape machine, the oxide tape, just giving it, as you see, some warmth and just a natural compression and saturation, and then putting on the parallel aggressor, which is giving it more saturation. Probably unnecessary, but whatever. And then I'm using like ozone to take out more of that stereo signal that exists from 200 hertz and back up here, right? Yeah, and then we have just the impact here, which helps, and the riser, which is just giving tension at the climax. Yeah, and that just helps out things there. And then, yeah. And then we have a cowbell verb, which I'm using the capital chamber. Interesting choice, I find, but, I think it's cool to use. And, it's like it's basically like how they would capture reverb from back in the day, and I'm sure it's still done in studios where, you'll reamp your sound coming out of the DAW and capture it on a microphone. I forgot the engineer's name that did Michael Jackson records, but he didn't like the sound of synthesizers because there was no, I guess, depth within the synthesizers on the speaker. It was just like it was in your face. Versus it's like when you record a band, you can just hear all the. It's more of a 3D sound, and what he did is that he would reamp the sound of the synthesizer and like put a microphone in front of the speaker and give it a certain distance, and it would just kind of he would record that sound of whatever it is, like, and I think it was I can't say, but it's like if it was a bass if it was a bass synthesizer or something, it would give it more shape and give it a room sound. And I'm sure like things were carved out, but you would mix that signal. I'm sure he mixed that signal with that recorded sound of that room, and it just gave it the track more depth. And then here we have. Interestingly, I added a room to the bass, which I think is kind of a no-no thing to do, but if you really look, I'm basically cutting out a lot of the low end within it. And then I'm using compressing the room on it just to give it more flavor, and then keying it in on the room. So every time, whenever the bass hits in the room, it's compressing and equaling out the room effect more. Pretty cool trick to use, I find, and it works great with vocals. And then we have a delay, and then doing like the same thing with the delay, like keying it in, and then like, so it's just like the delay is just more equal and ping pong delaying it. I do find it is an interesting choice to be using delays and stuff on bass, because usually I do tend to keep a lot of those effects dry, and when the effects are on the basses, they're usually built in with most of the synthesizers that I use, so I don't really bother to do the effects, because I find it takes more time for me in general to mix some like put effects on the bass like verb and stuff, because it's already taken up too much room in the mix, and then trying to balance things out, and it's like, I'm not a mixologist genius. I just like to do things and get things done, and yeah, and people enjoy the music, and that's fine. 300 monthly listeners on Spotify. I think I'm doing okay for an underground dance music artist. Yeah, and so hopefully the streams stay that way and go up more. But yeah, that always changes. But that about wraps it up. So thanks for watching, and do make sure to pre-order a copy of my track, Same-ish Different Day, as it says Same Shit Different Day there. But I wanted to name it Same-ish Different Day because of just not getting banned on YouTube or whatever. I find that with some certain tracks, if you have explicit stuff, it gets banned. Unless you're Nicki Minaj or whatever, it seems you can get away with having all the profanity on your music. But yeah, just make sure to subscribe to the channel, and yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed that video, and I do plan on making more of these videos. As you see, they are current on YouTube as the tracks are coming out. I may start doing some older tracks, as in if releases don't get as busy this year, but I kind of don't see that happening. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.